All right, guys, there is so much coming out with Diddy and the trial and everything that's going on. I know I was going to talk about The Last of Us before, but I think right now, due to just the silence behind it, the lack of cameras, I think is really important for us to really address the elephant in the room, or the Diddy in the room. And I do have 𝓵𝓏𝓫𝓬𝓻𝓷 here with me.
What's
and
up?
We're gonna go through things. Actually, 𝓵𝓏𝓫𝓬𝓻, I believe you watched the HBO series The Last of Us. No, not The Last of Us. I'm sorry. You watched The Fall of Diddy.
I watched both of those, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was your take on that? Because when I watched it, my thought process was, you know, it's 5 episodes, and each person they mention, even from like a witness who is from college days, and she recalls Diddy yelling and screaming at a girl in her dorm room, and all the way down to Little Rod and everything. For me personally, I was just like, aren't these people going to testify? Why are they putting it on a show right now?
Absolutely, but I'm not sure. Some of them would be definitely disqualified from being able to take the stands, and I do believe some people did just choose to sell their stories instead of using it to testify.
That's
Because
so
there people are not, when people go on those shows and they get their credits and so on and so forth, they're not there just on their own free will. They're there getting paid.
Yeah. Well, the reason I find it so interesting, because one of the people in that show is Lil Rod, who I thought was the whole backbone to Diddy's trial currently, just because he says he has multiple videos with underage girls, all of this, getting the drugs, XYZ, grapes, etc. You know, so I was actually very shocked.
Grapes of red.
Yes. So I was actually just very shocked that the HBO series is coming out just at the same time. But when it comes to this case...
Well, the HBO series came out in January.
No, this one?
Yeah, it came out in January.
It came out in January?
In January, and I believe that they finished up, in January, and I believe the last episode, which was like a mini-sode or something, with that really eloquent-looking, tall, handsome man. Nothing that I would never say out loud. But yeah, he was there, and I think that was probably afterwards, like you know that it ended up on Tiger... What's that show with the crazy man 𝘮𝑘𝓫? Remember when it came out with the extra episode at the end? So
yeah.
I think it's along those lines. Yeah. So that was early in the year, and I think that's why you're not going to see some of those faces up on the stands.
Interesting. That's what I'm.
And some of those people are going to be civil suits because this is a federal crime. So it's dependent on who the prosecutors decide to call up and who the defendants try to call up. But some of them are going to be having their own cases.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a federal government case against Diddy. Anything else after that, then I assume they'll be able to take the stand.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, let's just get right into the trial. So we were looking at some notes from other YouTubers who've done very, very good, extensive research.
Shouts out to 𝘮𝑚ango and her team. You know, I would like to say that they are inside reporters and they report directly to us. However, no, I'm just a fan.
And then I do also have like a live update timeline on here. So one of the things I feel like people need to address, especially now that Cassie has testified and has taken the stand, is that this is not a DV case, as you mentioned.
Right.
You pretty much, how'd you put it? You said this is the first time ever that you've ever seen one person
in a RICO case.
Yeah, only one person. I believe you said.
For personal use. Everything that he did was for himself, basically. It wasn't for the benefit of anybody else. It was for his own sadistic and perverse pleasures.
And you said usually with RICO cases and things like that,
it's a whole conglomerate of people that you're going to get.
And then...
Unless they decide for everybody that they decide to approach, everybody flips on him, which, I mean, I don't think anybody has loyalty to this man at this point.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure people are afraid that he's going to talk, because one thing that really, really I found interesting was the fact that he decided he was going to fight and go to court, because they offered him a deal. They said, whoever else is in your group, whoever else is above you, you know, tell us who it is and we will give you a deal. And he said no. Now, in my head, I look at Diddy as kind of like a black Great Gatsby, you know?
That's so disrespectful. Great Gatsby did what he did for the love of a woman. Diddy did what he did for the love of himself.
Okay. Well, okay. Even more narcissistic Great Gatsby.
Oh.
But like in my head, I'm just like, if you have that much power, you know, and he's had this power since he was 20. If I was at the top of the food chain, I wouldn't even care about giving out names because I know when I get out, I don't have to worry. But the fact that Diddy is choosing to still go to court, knowing how much attention it will draw on him and everything, my thought process is like, okay, so you clearly don't want to give out some names for a reason, and it's possibly because you know if you get out, you won't be safe. And that's like one of my first thoughts. I get, yeah. So I did want to bring it back that it's very important we understand this is not a DV case because based off of the opening statements, the defense is
trafficking of his exes.
I mean, the defense flat out states like, yo, you guys are going to see some horrible videos. My client is not a good person, but did he do this like drug trafficking, sex trafficking? Forget the domestic violence. It's not a case.
That's how they're gonna have to spin it.
But
that's how they're gonna have to spin it because
that's how they're spinning.
They want to RICO this man, but everything he did was for himself. So is this really a RICO? But they have to also speak about because this is what's gonna come down to. All the participants in it, right? Where do they stand in terms of liability? Are they underlings? Or are they all just employees? You understand? Are they his partners in crime? Are they just people who are serving?
Well, that's what's going on with Diddy's chief of staff, Christina.
Yes.
Because like she went quiet. She went so quiet.
How come we haven't met a black version of her as of yet? Where's the black evil assistant?
Well,
why is it always a white one?
There's actually somebody that they no, let's not get into that. But yeah, like Christina, as soon as she got mentioned in the lawsuit, she went completely ghost until right before the trial happened. Yeah. And then she's like, guys, I didn't know that this is all what he was doing with this. I was just doing my job. But Cassie, during her testimony, she said on her first day, she named Christina as one of the people that, like, if she tried to get away, would come and go get her. So that's where I'm just like, sure, in her position and other people under her, especially other people, they'll be like, yo, I was just doing my job. But at the same time, as you said, where's the line?
Well, the thing is that if someone instructs you to do something that's against the law, it's still against the law regardless. So it makes you complicit.
Yeah.
In the cases of when people order hitmen for, you're just as liable because it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
All right. So if this is all one big conspiracy case and there's multiple avenues, there's all ways that they can spin it.
Yeah.
But my thought process is that anybody that didn't get to flip, they're going to bring them down along with him. And if not, if everybody has splits on him, then he's good to go straight on up because they have a 98% conviction rate. And I don't see with all
I thought it was 80%.
98% conviction rate. So,
but then again,
I don't know what's going on. That's for federal states. I'm not sure specifically for because this is not New York State. It's federal. Yeah, they have 98% conviction rate.
Yeah, because it's the Southern District. They go hard.
Oh, they're gonna go hard regardless. That's the reason because they spend. Trust me, for all the years they got him for, they spent millions upon millions upon millions of dollars trying to bring this man down.
So when it comes to this trial, one of the first witnesses they bring out is a former security guard. And he said he has phone videos of him getting out the elevator and recording and seeing that it was Diddy and Cassie there. He's the one who filled out an incident report with the hotel, and he's the one that I can't recall if he made a copy of that video that we saw of Cassie and Diddy. He made a copy of it. And what is your take on this? Because that man has had this video for years, never said anything, and he flat out said the reason he recorded it is because his wife would not believe him.
I think I would record it too because my wife would not believe me. But do I believe him? No, I don't.
Honestly, I think like
I think he sees the opportunity to. I think a lot of people that we're gonna see, they're gonna come out and they're gonna tell the truth, and we're gonna be very appreciative of it, but they're not gonna be doing it out of the genuineness of their heart.
No, because I think he was just doing it for gossip.
Of course.
Like, he just recorded. It's like, you can't believe this.
Yeah, but why
was
not?
he ever gonna help?
Okay, no problem. That's not a crime.
And actually, there was more information from the trial that came out about that particular hotel scene. Was that it was actually in the middle of a freak off, and she was trying to leave early, and he got angry at her, and that's when he came out together, and then she had to go back into the freak off.
Correct. That's a crazy sentence.
Yeah.
That's a crazy sentence.
Very.
Sorry.
Very,
that
very
poor
crazy.
woman, man. Poor thing she has to go through.
Yeah.
Oh man. But everybody that came across this philanderer, you know, and aware of his ways, like up to a certain degree. Everyone is complicit in my eyes.
Yeah.
Fully. I actually know people like this. Not to this extent though, because they don't have nearly the amount of resources, but I know people who have their underlings from way back in the day. People who do things for them and X, Y, Z, and everyone just looks at it as their job because they're getting paid for it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, once you stop answering to this man, what's gonna happen? Mm-hmm. Because you're not afraid to face, like you're afraid to face consequences for somebody. You're gonna continue doing something.
So I have one question, because I keep thinking about what he's being charged with, and one of the things he was being charged with is transportation, sex trafficking, as well as transportation of a person for prostitution. Now, I know everybody's focused on like how he held Cassie and kept her against her will, but my question is, all of those male escorts that they flew out from Craigslist or wherever, or like online stuff, would that be considered as transportation for prostitution? Because if that is so, then just by the fact that Cassie, as well as a male escort that was another witness, all mentioned, hey, we looked for these people, brought them in, he paid them. Doesn't that already...
Escorts are technically not, are like yes, they're classified as sex workers, but they're not actually supposed, like, you don't have to have sex.
But if
so
they
if
did,
you're part of the agency, no, because it's completely, you're here for a date. And if it does happen, it's supposed to be consensual.
So
blah,
it wouldn't
blah,
be
blah,
considered
blah. No, that's the
prostitution.
difference. No, there's a difference between escorting and prostitution, but it's all just legal jargon when it comes down to it.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, that's why people take escorts out all the time, but it doesn't have to engage with sex.
No, but
If you order a prostitute is a prostitute. Here for
she
one
has
reason.
to have that.
But I wouldn't say we have to. Ladies and gentlemen,
It's
I'm sure-
expected. It's expected.
It's expected, correct.
Uh-huh.
Right. But we all know what it's really about. We know what it comes down to, but that's how you classify it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some male friends that put themselves through college escorting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they told me stories. Not
Okay, so then you have firsthand knowledge, because that's the big thing I was wondering. I was like, just from the fact that these two people are saying these specific things, doesn't that mean, hey, you could check off 2 of those charges, they're already confirmed? But now that you explain that, I understand why they still have to explain themselves.
No, well, it depends on like what you're doing. Like the whole in the Epstein case, so when they were sending the kids out, specifically these minors, right, to an island to engage in sexual activity, that was most definitely transportation for sex trafficking, because these are minors, right? They can't even give consent for the sex in the first place. So those two are just backed up together.
I get that.
Yeah. But these technically, they're supposed to be everyone with an escort in a situation between a couple, especially everybody's supposed to be consenting within that agreement.
Yeah.
Right. Because how could you possibly? Because in like if you write this down on paper, how could possibly an escort rape a client?
Yeah.
Like what are you here for, right? That would be defense people. I've actually seen that where people would just wanted to date and they expected more, but how would he ever get hired again, right?
Yeah.
So it just wouldn't make any sense.
So I want to get back into the case. Now, of course, the biggest thing everybody's talking about is Cassie's testimony. And in her testimony, she mentions that, hey, within 6 months or by 6 months, she understood that Diddy was starting to ask for certain types of things, and that she initially agreed to the FOs when just as she states, because she wanted to make him happy. She's also mentioned that she had bruises, black and blues. There was urination, black eyes, and that she was constantly dragged by her hair and things like that. Now, while she was talking about this on the first day, Diddy's daughters all walked out. And I think that's such an interesting thing that's going on between his daughters and his sons. Because his sons are also charged in lawsuits. His sons are also seen...
Both of them?
Each one in separate lawsuits.
Okay, for the same thing?
For similar things.
Okay.
Not exact, because it's different places, but like, for instance, Christian Combs was in a yacht. I believe Justin Combs' situation with the charge was in a studio. I'm not 100%
Okay,
sure.
all right. I think I've heard of this. Sorry.
Yeah. And the reason why I want to bring up the fact that the daughters walked out is because remember when Diddy was asked to give up passports?
Yes.
He did not give up his son's passports, but he gave up his daughters.
Okay.
And then on top of that, his daughters are literally 18 right now, which is a year older than when Cassie first met Diddy. So what are your thoughts on the fact that there's a slight gender divide within Diddy's family?
Well, I think that's just in, like, almost all nuclear families. Boys have different expectations of gender roles, and the girls as well. And I do believe the girls have been much more protected than the boys have, because they tend to party with their dad. Yeah, you've seen them and whatnot. Yeah. They're of age. Right, like they've been around him for quite some time now. I do think that certain activities that keeps up. I'm sure, like, I don't even know, man, with this man Diddy. Yeah. But I'm sure his kid wasn't in the freak off with him at any of these. You know, most parents would. I don't know, right? But most parents are not going to want to have their kids see them at their worst. You know, I don't know if, because I've known people who've abused drugs. You know, people who've engaged in gang activity and stuff throughout the years, but they don't want their kids to see that part of them, you know? So for the most part, I think like if they're on social media a certain way, they're gonna come across certain things, you know? But mind you, this is a very controlling man, and he wants to be able to separate his public image from his business life, and his business life from his personal life, right? So, and it's very curated and tailored, and that's why he has so many yes ma'ams and yes sirs around him, just so he can facilitate this facade. So in terms of the twins, I'm sure like they've heard things, but to be able to hear it in a court of law where there's no noise around.
There's no hiding.
There's no noise around. There's a bunch of people staring at one person on a stand while they tell their story. It must be quite unsettling.
Very.
Yeah. So I mean, and I think the boys, they're prepared for it because
they've probably also
live online. They're like that's pretty much their job.
But his daughters also live online.
They're social. They're the influencers.
They're influencers.
Do they handle their own stuff? I don't think that Diddy would handle it. Let them have any of that, because he himself is a monster, right? And he likes to look at all men like they're monsters too.
Well, to be honest, I personally think all of their socials are curated and they have somebody behind it. I will just say in terms of job field, both Christian and Justin and even Quincy have their own jobs that put them in a public spot.
Right, exactly.
Whereas the girls are just finishing high school.
That's what I'm saying though, right? That's what I said. They've been much more protected, and for certain things they're not going to be privy to, right, because their lives are in a nucleus, in a bubble, right? So for them, because there's no way they're not going to be there to support their father. They know, I wouldn't be surprised if they stopped showing up to the case as more details come out. But
yeah, and this is such a headbanger at the beginning to put Cassie in the beginning. Even the defense asking like, hey, you know, when the witness has to walk to the stand, can Cassie just be seated because she's pregnant? Which I understand the defense's reason is like, it's hard not to feel sympathetic for a pregnant woman as she's describing abuse.
Yeah, I agree. Objection overruled.
The judge is like, I don't care.
That's perfect. Wonderful.
And he said it so eloquently. He was like, with all due respect, sir, are we not supposed to not judge anybody based on their gender, their disability, or whatever? So are you asking for just this one person? But he was like, no, we're going to follow the law.
I bet Cassie's back. Sir, my pregnancy is not a disability, but thank you.
So one thing Cassie mentions, as I said before, is that the freak-offs could last 4 days. And because they were constantly on drugs and everything, and some of these...
Specifically Molly and ecstasy.
Or 2C, right?
2C. I think that was near the end of it. Like, that's like a newer thing for him in the past,
I
like,
thought
2 years or
that's
so.
been out for a good minute.
2C. Well, 2C has been out, but I don't think he's become a prolific user of it until more recently. I don't think that's what Cassie was talking about in terms of 2C. We heard that from the other women that he's been around after. Yeah, it's a designer drug that it can't be regulated because it's a combination, a cocktail of different drugs mixed together, and they're all made not in a laboratory. They're made at like people's backyards and inside their homes and whatnot. Right, so yeah, it's new. But prior to that, I think he was known mostly for Molly, ecstasy, and cocaine.
Wow.
And GHB, to a certain GHB, which is a delirium. It's pretty much makes you feel like you're drunk and disoriented without actually drinking any alcohol. And you can take a much lower dosage of it, like let's say versus like taking 3 or 4 shots. You take 1 shot of that, and you are night-night.
So, since we're starting so hard and heavy with Cassie at the beginning of the trial, where do you think the rest of this trial is going to go?
I think they did that for her specifically because she already had her case that she had filed and they settled out of court for it. So I think at this point now, considering that she is very much pregnant and she'll be giving birth very soon, she had to go first, and for her mental state at very least, just to get it out. She is a whistleblower on this. However, she's not I think she's the longest standing victim of him in terms of 10 years of victimhood.
Kim Porter?
She is no longer here with us, but she's...
Was Kim Porter more than 10 years?
Yeah, I would assume so from within the 90s up until her death, because he still was in her life up to a certain extent. But in terms of who we have here to present anything to the public...
That was directly with him. Because Justin Combs' mom, she technically still had to deal with stuff, but she had some distance between them.
Was he was making her freak off with him too and all?
No, but I'm just saying in terms of the abuse.
I'm talking about for this case. Okay. In terms of this case, I'm sorry. I don't know where I was going. I'm sorry. I missed my point. I don't know what I was talking about.
So, in day 2, as of today, well, not today, as of yesterday, Cassie had her second day of testimonies, and she mentioned that, hey, and I know we keep coming back to Cassie, and we're not repeating ourselves, or we're doing our best not to, but she had mentioned that he would use the videotapes to blackmail her, even one time playing it publicly in an airplane. There has been a lot of discourse with netizens where some people are like, because in Cassie's testimony, she said she was the one who went to look for escorts. She was the one who did this or did that. She wanted to be there. What is your take on that?
As someone who came from a very controlled childhood, I grew up in I can't get into specifics, but I was in a religion that most would identify as a cult. And within that cult, they tell you if you don't abide by the rules, then you're going to be shunned from your family. It's a kind of a similar situation. In my mind, it's like mental curation and control, because he's put her in a position. She was very young when she met this man. She was relying upon him. Like, she never got to fulfill her career or anything. He kept her tailor-made to whatever situation he was in. I think that she was just in a psychotic state almost,
I think she was probably disassociated the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I remember that's how I had to get through things when I was younger. So I assume she probably went through the same thing too. I'm very much empathetic to the whole idea of it. I'm not empathetic towards the people who are simply getting paid to take part in it, but the people who are being held hostage. Like, what do you want me to say? She couldn't leave.
Yeah, and that's the thing I want, because there's a huge discourse, as I said, and I think a lot of people are forgetting, as much as they were in a relationship, Diddy had control over her since the beginning. He had full control over her career since pretty much the moment they met. Because of that, there's a power imbalance. It does not matter, if she was like, hey, I want to make him happy, because it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, there will always be a power imbalance. They are not equal in this relationship.
Oh, definitely not.
One thing she mentioned yesterday, was that I don't know if you remember, Cassie used to have a scar on her eye.
No, sorry. Honestly, I didn't really follow much pop culture and stuff. I was in a whole island.
I understand.
What's going on?
But it was after she got attacked, and instead of sending her to a hospital, he sent her to a plastic surgeon. Now, I heard of a story, and so far, this is hearsay, but there's enough people to say that this actually happened, and there's enough witnesses for it. But there was one time he told her she needed bigger boobs. So he took her to a surgeon, and when she came out, she was still healing. He was like, no, they're too big. The doctor told him, like, hey, we can't put her right back. She just came out. He's like, no, you have to do it. He's like, look, we let it heal for a bit. So even before it fully healed, she was back in surgery, like, probably within a week or 2 weeks. Now, with things coming out like this, it makes me wonder, especially in LA, how much more people know that aren't saying anything.
I would imagine a lot.
Yeah.
This man has been terrorizing the public for like 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a bunch. We can tick them off.
Yeah.
And name your favorite rapper. I bet this man has something to do with it, bro.
Yeah. I don't agree, and I think it's kind of sad that more and more DV cases are coming out, like especially with DDG and Halle, as well as Meg Thee Stallion.
Listen, man, if it wasn't for social media, a lot of these things wouldn't come out. Like, this stuff has always been going on in different parts of society, especially in the entertainment world, and we like to overlook them because we like to see you on our screens and listen to you on our radios and all that. Mm-hmm. And now that more people are being held accountable and we have better systems for it, it's being more brought to light, as it should be. You know, we have to protect our not just our citizens, but like our morals to a certain extent. You know, I do think that as much as people are saying, "Oh, the world's getting worse," it's improving in certain ways because they're holding people accountable for these things.
Well, I mean, this is my concern when it comes to this case, because the more and more I hear about certain things, and the more that I see, like on Twitter, on TikTok, that people are forgetting this is not about DV. This is about something much more. I do worry that defense is hoping that people are so distracted by the DV that when they think of what he's actually charged with, they're just like, no, I don't think he did that.
Well, the good thing about this whole thing is that this trial is not on the internet. That's the whole reason why we don't have the media frenzy inside there. This is about the jurors and what they're being presented, and they're in isolation. So they're everything that they're seeing it's tailor made for them by the defense and by the prosecution. Mm-hmm. So all of us out here clamoring around and making our decisions, so it doesn't really matter what we say. The court of public opinion is going to be what it is, just like what it was for Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's case.
Well, I mean, I'm more worried that like Diddy can actually get away with it, because when this
always a possibility.
Yeah, when this trial started, I was just like, it's we know he did it. But as the case is going on, I'm just like, are there too many other things to distract people?
Well, the 98% conviction rate, I'll just leave it up to them. I think they know what they're doing. They have like they have an A team going right now.
Yeah.
And they're not going down. They put away a couple different like up and coming rappers over the past couple of years, and they didn't even do half of what this man did. You know, he has a lot of cash. But how far can it bring in from the court of public opinion? Because they're talking about this man also bribing state employees, which specifically the NYPD.
Yeah.
So they're going to get into all that too.
Well, that's why I think they said that.
I don't think he can get away from those charges. They come with very hefty years.
Yeah. Well, that's why they said with Diddy, with the people around him now, especially the people involved in the case, they're retired police officers. They're not getting anybody that's currently working with the NYPD.
Right.
So
they cannot be held liable for a lot of things because the state will just cut them a deal, especially with all the years of service that they put in. Mm-hmm. Like I said, they're going in there with the assessment that we spend millions of dollars trying to get this man. If we don't get this man, then they're putting their own careers on the line for something like this. I mean, as much as Diddy is called the best of the best for his defense.
Yeah, his team is stacked. His team is stacked.
But they're all very much acquainted with each other. These guys go way back because they, like I said, they are the best of the best. And just like when you're in any other field or sport, you tend to come across your contemporaries quite frequently. You'll hear about each other. Trust me, they'll come to whatever needs to be come to. I don't think that I don't think he's gonna get like anything to life. But I do believe that they're going to get sentenced in with minimums of like 15s, minimums of 20, depending on what the case is, on what it is completely. And remember, Diddy has already slipped through the cracks several times before.
Yeah.
The more that you do that, there's the more you upset the federal government because they're tired of you, bro.
Yeah.
Remember back in 2001, this man sent Shine to prison, and I never got my album, you know?
And Shine, I remember.
I never got my album sent.
No, I remember.
He was supposed to come and replace Biggie. And you know what we got? We sent that man back to the Dominican Republic or Panama, wherever he came from, bro. That was evil.
My last take on this is that my biggest concern is if Diddy does get little years.
Yeah.
Or
they're gonna give him a civil court. He's gonna be all right.
Or he gets away with it. Is that certain men, not all men, but certain men will take advantage. That's my biggest concern with this case.
Well, the good thing is that the population of billionaires is extremely small, and as we picked up in the past like year or so, the public is getting more and more riled up against them because they get hungry. Inflation is inflating our side pockets, bro. So we'll see just how long they want to keep playing with the regular people of not just the United States, but the world, bro. People eat, bro. You have all the meats.
Okay, guys, so that's it for right now with Diddy's case. We are still, watching this every day by day for the next, I think, 2 months?
Man, this might go on forever, bro.
Right?
Amber Heard's case with Johnny Depp was like at least like 2.5 months. And it was pretty much them talking about 3 different incidents. This man has done so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not whatsoever going to support Diddy, but boy, am I a fan. This man is the biggest villain I've ever met before in life. He's Machiavellian in nature. Like if the man, like if he had a mustache, I would imagine him twirling and that's the things that he would come up with. I've never met like you have everything and you must destroy everything. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. He's such an interesting character. And we'll keep watching to find out more about the trial.
All right, peace out, homies. See you on Divine Next.